My name is Arthur Walsh. I'm 59 years old, and I live in a modest two-bedroom house on the quiet outskirts of Detroit, Michigan. It's the house my parents left me over 15 years ago, filled with a lifetime of memories and the faint, comforting scent of old wood. For the last 3 months, my life has been governed by a single chilling event. My son, Leo, calls me every single night at 9:15 p.m. to ask me one question. "Are you alone, Dad?" Last night, for the first time, I lied to him. And I believe that lie is the only reason I'm alive to tell this story. I'm sharing this as a warning to parents everywhere who, like me, could never imagine their own child becoming their greatest threat. Yesterday afternoon was unremarkable. I'd just returned from the garage where I work part-time as a mechanic. At my age, the heavy lifting is harder, but my hands are still steady, and the young guys respect my experience. I was washing grease from my hands at the kitchen sink when my cell phone rang. "Hello?" I answered, drying my hands on an old rag. "Dad, it's me." Leo's voice was flat, devoid of its usual warmth. "Hey, son. Everything all right at the office?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light even as my heart began to thud against my ribs. I knew what was coming. "Yeah, fine. Just busy." He paused, and then it came. "Are you alone right now?" My pulse raced. For 90 nights, I had answered truthfully, "Yes, I'm alone." And every time, without fail, he would hang up immediately. The few times I hadn't been alone, he'd bombarded me with questions. Who was there? Why were they there? How long would they stay? It was unnerving. This time, a primal instinct screamed at me to break the pattern. No, I'm not alone," I said, gripping the phone tighter. Clara dropped by. "We're having coffee." The silence on the other end was brief, but heavy enough to feel. "Clara, the notary." His voice tightened, every syllable laced with a tension I could almost touch. "What is she doing there?" "She's helping me sort through some old paperwork for the house," I improvised. "You know how I am with all that legal jargon." "What papers?" he insisted, his voice rising. "What are you talking about, Dad?" "Nothing important, Leo. Just the deed, some tax stuff. Old man's boring things," I said, forcing a casual tone. "Why, do you need something?" "No," he answered curtly. "We'll talk tomorrow." The line went dead, as usual, without a goodbye. I stood there, staring at the phone, a mix of relief and profound worry washing over me. I had broken the ritual, and Leo's reaction was more agitated than I'd ever heard him. I walked to the living room window and looked out at my quiet street. This house isn't much, but it's my sanctuary. I never thought I'd have to defend it from my own flesh and blood. Leo was born when I was 27. His mother, Susan, and I were young and never married. But we tried to make it work until she moved to Seattle for a job when he was 8. I got custody. It wasn't easy raising a boy alone, but I did my best. He was always a quiet, observant kid, smart too. He studied finance and landed a good job at a firm here in Detroit. We saw each other for Sunday dinners, holidays. It was a normal, if somewhat distant relationship between a father and his adult son. The trouble started subtly about 3 months ago. Little things. A book misplaced. The contents of a drawer seeming slightly out of order. A creeping feeling that someone had been in my house while I was out. I chalked it up to my age, to a memory starting to falter. Then the calls began. Every night. 9:15 p.m. on the dot. The same question. I tried asking him why it mattered, but he'd just say he was worried about me living alone. The excuses felt thin, a veil over something I couldn't see. Last week, I came home to find my toolbox open. My favorite socket wrench was missing. I thought I'd just misplaced it. But then, I found the drawer where I keep my important documents slightly ajar, and I knew, with a cold certainty, that I hadn't left it that way. That's when I decided to install the cameras. It felt like a betrayal, spying on my own home out of fear of my son. But the dread in my gut told me it was necessary. My friend Ben, who runs an electronics shop, helped me set up 2 small, discreet cameras. one in the living room and one facing the front door. He showed me how to access the feed on my phone. The first 2 nights, nothing. On the 3rd night, I woke with a start at 3:30 a.m. Sure, I'd heard a noise. I checked the house and found nothing. But in the morning, I reviewed the recordings. My blood ran cold. At 2:38 a.m., my front door had swung open silently. Leo walked in, using a key I never gave him. He moved with a predator's familiarity, going straight to my document drawer. He photographed several papers with his phone, carefully replaced them, and then walked toward my bedroom. He pushed the door open just enough to peer inside. He stood there, watching me sleep, for a full minute, before leaving as quietly as he had arrived. The floor seemed to sway beneath my feet. My own son was a ghost in my home, a shadow in the night, and I had no idea why. As the horrifying truth of my son's nightly invasions sank in, I knew I had to act. I reached out to the only person I could trust, but what we would uncover in Leo's apartment would prove that his secret visits were just the beginning of a nightmare I could never have imagined. Sitting in a diner far from both my house and Leo's office, I slid my phone across the table to Clara Evans. On the screen was the video of Leo moving through my house in the dead of night. Clara, a sharp and pragmatic notary public I'd known for years, watched, her expression hardening from curiosity to grim concern. "Arthur, this is more than trespassing," she said, handing the phone back. "This is a violation. Has anything else happened?" I told her about the missing wrench, the moved objects, and then a memory surfacing. I mentioned the $45,000 Leo had asked to borrow 4 months ago for a can't-miss investment. I'd given it to him without a second thought. He'd always been responsible. "We need to understand what he's looking for," Clara stated. "Do you have anything of significant value?" "Just my pension and this house," I said, shaking my head. "It's not worth a fortune in this neighborhood." "And the documents he was photographing?" "Looked like my bank statements, the house deed." "My social security card, I think." Clara leaned forward, her voice low. "Arthur, we need to find out what's happening in Leo's life. Financial trouble? Gambling? Something is driving this." "I don't know," I confessed. "We've drifted. Since his divorce from Maya 2 years ago, he's been more withdrawn. But he still comes for Sunday dinners, though lately he's been quiet, mumbling to himself sometimes. Once, I saw him arguing on the phone, but he said it was just a client." Clara's next words sent a chill straight through me. "If he has a key and is going through your personal documents, he could be planning something serious. Arthur, do you have a way to get into his apartment?" The idea was insane. Invade my son's privacy? But then I remembered the video. Him invading mine, watching me sleep. The line had already been crossed. "I have an emergency key," I admitted. "He gave it to me when he moved in." "Good," Clara nodded. "We go today while he's at work. We don't touch anything, we just look. We need to understand." That afternoon, my stomach was a tangled knot of dread and guilt as I stood outside Leo's apartment building. Clara's presence was the only thing keeping me grounded. We took the elevator to the 4th floor, and after ensuring the hallway was empty, I slid the key into the lock. The apartment was impeccably tidy, just like Leo, but the air felt stale, charged with a strange stillness. Clara pointed to a desk in the corner of the living room. "Let's start there," we approached carefully. Spread across the surface were stacks of overdue bills, bank statements showing an account deep in the red, and threatening letters from collection agencies. "He's drowning in debt," Clara murmured, scanning the amounts. "Over $400,000. "Did you know?" I shook my head, a hollow feeling opening inside me. The son I thought I knew was a stranger. Then, in the top drawer, we found it. A legal document granting Leo power of attorney over my assets and finances. My signature was scrawled at the bottom, a crude forgery. "I never signed this," I whispered, my voice trembling. "It wouldn't hold up," Clara confirmed. "But it shows intent." But it was the next discovery that stole the air from my lungs. Tucked in the back of the drawer was a small, unlabeled glass vial filled with a clear liquid. Next to it, a printed sheet detailed the effects and lethal dosages of a powerful sedative on the elderly. "Arthur," Clara's voice was sharp with alarm. "We need to leave, now, and call the police." Just then, my phone vibrated. A text from my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Gable. "Arthur, I let myself in with your spare key. I thought I smelled gas. I found something attached to your stove. It looks wrong. You need to come home, now." I showed the message to Clara, my blood running cold. "Let's go," she said, quickly snapping photos of the documents and the vial with her phone. "This is far more serious than we thought." We hurried out of the apartment, the terrible truth taking shape. My son wasn't just spying on me, he was actively plotting my end. As we rushed down the stairwell, my phone rang. The screen lit up with a single word. "Leo." My thumb hovered over the ignore button, but Clara gave a tense nod. I answered, "Dad?" His voice was deceptively calm. "Where are you? I stopped by your house and you weren't there." It was only 3:15 in the afternoon. He should have been at work, not looking for me. Fear clamped around my windpipe.
I'm with Clara. I managed, clinging to the lie I'd started. "We're reviewing some of that paperwork." "Where?" he insisted, a sharp edge entering his tone. "I need to see you. It's urgent." I looked at Clara, who shook her head almost imperceptibly. "We're at her office." I lied again. "But we'll be tied up for a while. Can we meet later?" There was a long, heavy silence. I could hear his breathing on the other end. "Never mind," he said finally, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "We'll talk tonight." The line went dead, and in that moment, I knew the fragile peace had shattered. The lie from the night before had disrupted his plan, and now we were racing toward a confrontation I couldn't possibly be ready for. We sped toward my house, fearing what we would find. But nothing could have prepared me for the sophisticated death trap my son had planted in my home, or for the chilling phone call that would come next, threatening to blow our desperate investigation wide open. We reached my house in under 20 minutes. Mrs. Gable was waiting on the porch, her wrinkled face pale with anxiety. She's been my neighbor for 40 years, a steadfast presence who knew my parents and watched me grow from a young man into a grandfather-aged one. "Arthur, thank goodness," she breathed, wringing her hands. "I came to bring you the soup I promised, and I smelled something, a sweet, chemical smell, not quite gas. I got worried and used the key." "Did you go inside?" I asked, my own keys rattling as I unlocked the front door. "Yes, forgive me. I just had a bad feeling." The three of us stepped inside. Everything looked normal, but Mrs. Gable led us straight to the kitchen. "Look," she said, pointing a trembling finger behind the stove. I knelt down, my knees cracking, and peered into the dim space. There, connected to the main gas line, was a small, digital device no bigger than a matchbox. A tiny screen glowed with red numbers, 257. "It's a timer," Clara said, her voice tight as she crouched beside me without touching it. "It looks like it's counting down to 3 a.m. "To activate what?" Mrs. Gable asked, her voice hushed. I traced a thin, almost invisible wire from the timer to a secondary valve that had been spliced into my gas line. "To open the gas," I answered, my own voice sounding thin and far away. At 3 o'clock in the morning, while I'm in a deep sleep. The three of us looked at each other, the horrifying reality settling over the room like a shroud. This wasn't just a violation, it was a meticulously planned execution. "We have to call the police," Clara said, pulling out her phone. "Wait," I stopped her, a desperate, paternal instinct flaring. "We need more proof. If we accuse him and he denies it, it could all fall apart. He's my son, Clara. I need to be sure before I destroy his life." "Arthur, this is attempted murder. What more proof do you need?" "The vial," I said, the idea forming as I spoke. "The one from his apartment. We need to know what's in it." Mrs. Gable, who had been listening with growing horror, spoke up. "My grandson, Evan. He's a chemist at the university lab. If it's an emergency, he could analyze it for you, discreetly." "That would be perfect," Clara agreed. "But first, let's document this." She took out her phone and photographed the device from every angle while I, with hands that shook uncontrollably, carefully disconnected the wires and removed it. We placed it in a plastic bag along with the specialized tools Leo had left behind. "You can't stay here tonight," Clara stated firmly. "He can stay with me," Mrs. Gable offered immediately. "I have plenty of room." I shook my head. "No, I have to be here when Leo calls at 9:15. If I don't answer, or if he checks and I'm not here, he'll know something's wrong." "Then we'll stay with you," Clara decided. "You're not facing this alone, Arthur." For the next hour, we combed every inch of the house, searching for other devices. We found nothing else, but the sense of safety I had cherished for decades was gone, replaced by a pervasive dread. "Let's go see your grandson now," I told Mrs. Gable, holding up the bag containing the vile weed brought from Leo's apartment. "We need answers before that call comes." The university lab was a 40-minute drive. During the trip, Clara called an acquaintance, Sergeant Miller, and explained the situation in vague terms. After she hung up, she relayed his advice. "He says we need irrefutable evidence for a search warrant. Confirming the contents of that vial is our first legal step." Evan, Mrs. Gable's grandson, met us at a service entrance. He was a serious young man in a lab coat who listened intently as we laid out the nightmare. His expression grew graver with every word. "This is very serious, Mr. Walsh," he said. "I can run an analysis now, but if I find a controlled substance, I'm legally obligated to report it." "We understand," Clara replied. "We just need the truth." While Evan worked, I sat in a stiff plastic chair in the hallway, my mind reeling. How had my boy, the child I taught to ride a bike, become this monster? Clara's voice pulled me from the abyss. "Arthur, think. Did Leo ever mention any new friends? A change in his behavior?" I grasped at fragments. "He left his job at the financial firm about 6 months ago. Said he had a better opportunity, but never said what. His hours became erratic. And he asked me about selling the house. Said I'd be better off in an apartment. We argued about it." Clara made a note. "And life insurance? Do you have a policy?" "Just the basic one from my pension. Maybe 50,000. Before she could respond, Evan returned, his face grim. He held a printout. "It's a potent cocktail," he said. "A barbiturate mixed with a synthetic opioid. In small doses, it causes confusion and drowsiness. In a higher dose." He didn't need to finish. "It would be very difficult to detect in a standard autopsy, especially if the cause of death was assumed to be gas inhalation." The pieces of Leo's horrific puzzle snapped into place with devastating clarity. He wasn't just trying to kill me. He was trying to make it look like a tragic accident. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Dad, pick up the house phone. We need to talk." I showed it to Clara. My landline started ringing, shrill and insistent. It was 9:10 p.m. He was calling early. He was checking up on me. "Don't answer," Clara warned. We let it ring until the answering machine clicked on. There was only silence, then a dial tone. At 9:15 precisely, my cell phone vibrated. "Leo." I put it on speaker. "Hello, Dad." His voice was strained, the calm facade gone. "I'm here, son. Are you alone?" he asked, the question landing like a physical blow. I looked at Clara. She gave a firm, single nod. "No," I said. "Clara's still here. We've been working all evening." The silence this time was profound, a void of sheer fury. "What documents could possibly take this long?" he finally hissed. "Just the final details," I said, my throat dry. "Is she staying the night?" The question was a demand. "Probably. It's late, Dad." His voice dropped, becoming dangerously soft. "I need to see you alone. It's important. I'm coming over now." Clara shook her head violently. "It's not a good time, Leo. Let's have breakfast tomorrow." "It can't wait," he snapped, his control shattering. "What are you really doing? What exactly are you reviewing?" The line went dead in my hand. Clara was already on her feet. "He's coming," she said. "He knows something's wrong. We need to call the police. Now." But as she dialed, we heard the unmistakable sound of a key turning in the back door lock. The lock clicked open. We were out of time. As my son stepped back into the house he had turned into a death trap, I realized the final confrontation was here. But I wasn't prepared for what he carried in his hand, or the calm, monstrous offer he would make me. The back door swung open slowly. "Dad? You here?" Leo's voice called out, too calm, too controlled. My blood turned to ice. Clara held her phone, whispering our address to Sergeant Miller before quickly stuffing it into her pocket. The police were on their way, but they would be too late for this. I know you're here, Leo continued, his footsteps echoing on the kitchen tile. Your car is out front. I made a decision. I stood up, my legs feeling like water, and walked toward the kitchen. Clara tried to grab my arm, but I shook my head. This was between me and my son now. I'm here, Leo, I said, stepping into the doorway. He was standing by the stove, his eyes darting to the empty space where his device had been. He was holding a small black backpack. His gaze was restless, scanning the room like a hunted animal. Where's Clara? He asked, his voice tight. She went to get us some dinner. I lied. What's so urgent that it can't wait until tomorrow? He dropped the backpack on the table with a soft thud. The house. We need to finalize things. I have a buyer who's ready. I told you, Leo, I'm not selling. I kept my voice even, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. This is my home. It's what's best for you, he insisted, a flash of anger in his eyes. This place is too much for you. It's not safe. He took a step toward the stove, his hand reaching behind it instinctively. He froze when he found nothing. His head snapped toward me. Have you had someone in here? The gas line, it looks tampered with. The utility guy was here yesterday, I said, the lies coming easier now, fueled by fear. There was a minor leak. He fixed it. Leo stared at me, his eyes narrowing as he evaluated my story. Then, with a chilling deliberateness, he unzipped his backpack and pulled out a vial identical to the one we'd found in his apartment. I brought you something, he said, placing it on the table. New vitamins. For your blood pressure. You should take them tonight. He unscrewed the cap and shook out 2 small white tablets into his palm. Here, take them now. My mouth went dry. That's kind, son, but I already took my medication. These are different. More effective. He took a step closer, his hand outstretched. The pills sat innocently in his palm. I insist, Dad. It's for your own good. The look in his eyes was one I had never seen before. A flat, calculating coldness that erased the last vestiges of the boy I knew. He wasn't asking, he was commanding. I'd rather wait until I talk to Dr. Evans tomorrow, I said, taking a step back. His expression darkened. Take them. Now. He advanced, closing the distance between us. Just as he raised his hand toward my face, Clara's voice cut through the tension from the living room. The police are on their way, Arthur. Leo spun around, his fist closing over the pills. His face was a mask of shock and rage. Police? Why did you call the police? He demanded, his voice cracking. Before I could answer, the front door burst open and 2 uniformed officers entered, followed by Sergeant Miller. The room was suddenly crowded, the air thick with confrontation. Leo Walsh, Sergeant Miller said, his tone official and calm. My son nodded, his eyes wide with panic. We have questions regarding an illegal device connected to this home's gas line, possession of a controlled substance, and a fraudulent life insurance policy, Miller continued. I suggest you come with us to the station. Leo looked from the sergeant to me, and for a fleeting second, I saw the terrified little boy I used to comfort after a bad dream. Then, his face hardened again. I don't know what you're talking about. I came to bring my father his vitamins. He pointed to the vial on the table. Those? Miller asked. Do you mind if we have those analyzed? In that moment, the fight seemed to drain out of Leo. His shoulders slumped, and his head dropped. When he looked up, his eyes were hollow. He told me I had to. He murmured, so softly we all had to lean in. He said it was the only way. Who told you, son? I asked, my heart breaking. Leo's gaze drifted to the empty corner of the kitchen. The man in the suit. The one who watches from the shadows. He said if I didn't do it, he'd hurt you. Really hurt you. He said making it look like an accident was the only way to save you. A profound silence fell over the room. There was no man. There was only the terrifying void of my son's broken mind. Sergeant Miller's voice was surprisingly gentle. Leo, how long have you been seeing this man? A long time, he whispered, pressing the heels of his hands against his temples. Years. He wanted me to make sure you were alone, that no one else was listening. As the officers carefully handcuffed him, I looked at Clara, her face a mirror of my own devastating understanding. This wasn't about greed. It wasn't about debt. My son was profoundly, heartbreakingly ill. Mr. Walsh, Sergeant Miller said as they led Leo away, we'll need your full statement. And I strongly recommend you petition the court for a psychiatric evaluation. I could only nod, tears I could no longer hold back streaming down my face. I watched them put my son in the back of a police car, his lost gaze staring out at nothing. The threat to my life was over, but a much more profound pain had just begun. With my son in custody, I thought the nightmare was finally over. But the next day, a visitor from Leo's past would arrive with a revelation that rewrote the entire story, exposing a history of illness I had been blind to for years. The dawn after Leo's arrest found me sitting in my silent living room, a cold cup of coffee in my hands. The relief I expected was nowhere to be found. In its place was a crushing guilt. How had I missed the signs? How had I not seen my son was drowning in a sea of delusion? Amanda knocked on my door at 7 a.m., her face etched with the same exhaustion I felt. "How are you holding up, Arthur?" Shattered, I admitted. "I keep thinking of all the moments I should have known, should have seen he was suffering." "Don't do that to yourself," she said firmly. "The important thing now is to get Leo the help he needs." She was right. Of course she was. "I spoke with Sergeant Miller," she continued. "Leo was evaluated by a psychiatrist at the station. The preliminary diagnosis is paranoid schizophrenia. He's in the midst of a severe psychotic episode." The word schizophrenia landed on me with the weight of a tombstone. It was an illness I knew only from headlines, something that happened to other people's families. "There's a hearing at 10, Amanda said. "The judge will decide if he stays in custody or is transferred to a psychiatric facility." "I have to be there," I said, standing up. "Of course. But first, there's someone here to see you." Before I could ask, the doorbell rang. Amanda opened it, and in walked a woman I hadn't seen in years, Maya, Leo's ex-wife. "Arthur," she said, her voice soft with sympathy as she embraced me. "I'm so sorry. Amanda called me last night." "Maya, what are you doing here?" She told me what happened. "There are things you need to know about Leo." We sat, and Maya nervously twisted her hands. "He started changing about 3 years ago, before we split. At first, it was small, forgetfulness, staring into space. Then it got worse. He became paranoid, accused me of conspiring with his colleagues, thought people were breaking in to poison us. Each word was a knife to my heart. Why didn't you tell me? He made me promise. He said it was just work stress. He was seeing a psychiatrist, a Dr. Irwin. He was on medication and seemed to be improving. But after the divorce, he lost his insurance. The medication was expensive. I think he just stopped. The final pieces of the tragic puzzle clicked into place. The debt wasn't from gambling or a lavish lifestyle. It was from a desperate attempt to manage a devastating illness without help. The life insurance policy wasn't for greed. In his twisted reality, it was the funding he needed to escape the threats he believed were chasing him. At the courthouse, Dr. Irwin confirmed everything. He explained how Leo's paranoid delusions had constructed an entire false reality where I was in peril and his actions were the only way to save me. When the judge asked if I wished to press charges, I looked at my son, who seemed small and lost in his ill-fitting clothes. "No, Your Honor," I said, my voice clear and firm. "My son is sick. He needs treatment, not punishment." Based on the medical testimony, the judge declared Leo not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him transferred to a state psychiatric hospital for treatment. The road to recovery has been long. For the first 6 months, the medication made him a ghost of himself. But I visited every week without fail. Slowly, the fog began to lift. During one visit, he finally asked the question I'd been dreading. "Dad, did I really try to kill you?" "Yes, Leo," I said softly. "But it wasn't you. It was the illness." He cried then, deep, shuddering sobs of shame and confusion. He explained his delusion, that a shadowy organization was using me to get to him, and that the only way to save me was to stage my death so they would lose interest. The insurance money was for him to disappear, to lead them away from me. In his mind, he was my hero. At his 6-month review hearing, the judge ruled he would remain hospitalized for another year, with the possibility of supervised outings later. It was a sobering but necessary decision. After the hearing, as an orderly prepared to take him back, Leo hugged me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me," he whispered. "I never will," I promised. "I'm your father." That evening, back in the home I had reclaimed, I looked at the clock. 9:15 p.m., the time of the call that would never come. But this time, I was the one who made a call to the hospital to check on him. The nurse said he was calm, that he'd had a good day. I placed a new photo on the mantel next to the old one of him as a boy. It was a picture of us playing chess during my last visit. He was smiling a real, genuine smile, the first I'd seen in years. The lie I told that night saved my life. But the painful, heartbreaking truth was now saving my son's. And in the end, that's all a father can ever truly ask for.